Perfect. And then she told me to
Mute myself right now.
Hey, Nicole, are you there?
I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, I was on another screen.
No, hey, awesome, all good. I just sent a note to Chantel. I just wanted to I didn't fill out the notes section in Master Tracker early enough, and I just wanted to let you know there's breakout rooms in this session.
Oh God, you just upped the game, didn't you? Oh Lord, how do I do breakout sessions?
Well,
Okay.
here's the thing. They're gonna own breakout sessions.
Oh,
Okay. They should be able to do that. Hold on, I'm double checking something here.
I can see I can do breakout rooms. I've never done them.
Okay, one sec. Okay, so when they join,
That's all I wanted to know, whether you were re-invited.
that's why they're not on yet.
Cool. Is that gonna work for the participants or?
It automatically goes with it.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. Okay, so when they join, Lieschen and William, they should be promoted to hosts, and I can help you with that too if you haven't done that. And then from there, it's really just on them to do breakout rooms.
Okay.
I'm curious though, do you see breakout rooms at the bottom of your screen there?
I do.
Oh, okay, I see it now too. Sorry, it was in the, okay, it was in the.
I've never done it before. I know I've been in breakout rooms. I've never been the one that does it.
Well, if we make them the co-hosts though, then it's kind of on them to do it. Like then I don't think you'd need to really do anything there.
Okay.
But I'm curious why they haven't joined yet.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping in here. I know it's a little chaotic, but it's all good.
It's the startup week, baby.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe I'll email Lieschen real quick. They confirmed yesterday.
Okay, that's good to know.
Let me try to join this from the main schedule link.
Okay.
And I'll be right back on.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, but that made me a host again.
Host.
Well, because oh geez. Well, I think it's to log me back in under the account you're logged in, like the Zoom master account.
Should I log out then?
No, you're good. It'd be on my end if we needed to. Okay, I'll be right back one more time.
Huh. I'm the only one here.
What session do you have?
Customers for a win. We're missing our speakers.
Hey, I figured it out, Nicole.
Okay.
Since it's a Zoom meeting and not, there they are. So we can admit
Yep.
her and we'll promote her right now too. I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay. There's Tori.
Well, one sec. So let me.
I'm inviting all these people in.
Oh, you might have to promote Lieschen and William.
To make, who should I make host?
Do you see the option to make Lieschen and William hosts?
Yeah, make Lieschen the host. I can't make William a host.
Yeah, it's probably only one host. That's okay. You should be the host.
Lieschen should be the
Yep.
host.
Can you make William a co-host?
It's only allowing me to chat or pin.
It should be.
Oh, Lieschen's now the host. Lieschen, if you
Oh.
can make William a co-host, I believe.
Oh, that's right. I
I
lost power.
I can't screen share because I don't have it. Okay.
Lieschen, if you don't see that, if you see it, okay, perfect, nailed it.
Co-host now, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so she's the host, co-host. I'm gonna stop my video, obviously.
So the only thing real quick, whoever is screen sharing there.
Yeah.
William, we got to have, Nicole's going to run a video just at the start of this. And then as soon as that video is done, you and Lieschen can jump in.
Okay, sounds great. I'll stop screen sharing. And I also see, I think 3 people are in the waiting room. Are we just letting them hang out there?
You can admit them as you want along the way there.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops. How do I share the screen if I'm disabled?
So they should
Oh.
make you a co-host too.
Yeah, exactly. Lieschen, if you can make, here, I'll make it easy on you.
Yeah,
Make the DSW Zoom 3 a co-host. There you go. Oh, sweet.
did.
Okay.
They should be now.
Sweet.
And that's at the top, right? Right away, Ryan, or do you want me to wait or?
Oh, well, now, Nicole, just the normal dance, right? So you can share your screen at the bottom there, and then you're going to show the video. And then as soon as you're done with the video, William and Lieschen will take over.
Okay, do you want me to do that now or you want me to wait a few more minutes?
Let's wait until, you know, like, I don't know, 15, 30 seconds past 1 o'clock.
Okay,
Sounds good.
okay.
And then William and Lieschen, you'll see along the way. I mean, people don't join this until like literally like minutes after 1 o'clock even.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
Yeah, we
just
can.
make sure you let them in.
We're flexible. If you want to wait a couple minutes before you play the video, that's fine too.
Okay. Sorry, and Nicole, I know this is a little bit trickier. Sorry, I should have put the notes in the master tracking sheet there.
For what? I think am I good? I just hit a video and then I'm stopped, right?
Yep. Yeah. So, and when you click that share screen button, it'll say like, do you want to optimize for video audio? And you can just click yes, and then you should be good to go.
Oh, yeah, that's always the funky thing, the sound, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. And Nicole, I have a meeting at 1, so I'm going to jump it. I think everything's good to go.
Welcome everybody. We're happy to have you. We're just giving a couple moments here for other people to join.
Hello, I'm Eric Matisik, co-chair of Denver Startup Week. Last year, we were able to bring the global audience together for Denver Startup Week, and this year, we're excited to welcome that global audience back as we celebrate and showcase the best of entrepreneurship that the Denver ecosystem in Colorado has to offer, in Denver and beyond. There are lots to explore this week, but most importantly, we're excited that you're joining us. We have nearly 50 sponsor companies who contribute to make Denver Startup Week possible. Let's show our love for these companies today and all week long. Thanks to our headquarters and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors whose leadership makes this week come to life, Capital One Cafe, the Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork, and our track sponsors who've made all the great content you're hearing today possible, which includes our founder track sponsor, Kickstart, our growth track sponsor, Friday Health Plans, developer track sponsor, Quizlet, product track sponsor, Palantir, design track sponsor, Battery 621 in the Public Works, people track sponsor Exactly, and the spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing this excitement to the entire week. Thank you to B-Side Fund, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing Company, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, Gusto, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pi Insurance, Promontory Mortgage Path, Red Bull Basement, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and the VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our sponsors and member sponsors who are listed on the screen, and thank you for your support of Denver Startup Week. Now, let's get to it.
Hello, Denver. We are so excited to be here. We're excited to tell you a bit more about the Foundry for Builders program and to be a part of the Denver startup ecosystem. We moved our headquarters to Denver in the last year, and we're excited to call Denver home. Foundry for Builders, essentially we're offering our end-to-end Foundry solution that is deployed to major governments and enterprises worldwide, to early and growth stage companies so that they can build their business on Foundry from day one.
Hi everyone, welcome to Denver Startup Week. My name is Ryan Margolis and I'm the Product Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At DSW, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation. A special thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep DSW free and accessible for all. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lieschen Gargano, and I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, I'm William Kammersell. I'm a director of product management at Scaled Agile. I work alongside Lieschen, and I got to tell you, I can't do my job if I'm not talking to customers. I get really antsy if I go a week without talking to them. I just really start questioning every decision I make. It's awful. And so I'm excited here today, and Lieschen is too. We're thrilled to share with you how we go about thinking about customer research and making it a reality to have great customer interviews. For those of you who are joining us live, I put in the chat a link to Mural. We're going to use it mainly for presenting, but we're going to get the chance to practice together today. So you might want to go and click that. You don't have to create an account. You can just access it. And I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Awesome. So yeah, and a little bit more about me. So my name is Lieschen Gargano, and I am currently a product owner at Scaled Agile. I've also been an Agile coach, and I have a background in conflict resolution. So the types of customer interviews I've done have run the gamut, but the information we're covering today is really universal in making your interviews better and improving your interviewing skills. The practicing is going to be the best part, but we're going to set you up with some mindset, right? How to set your baseline mindset, preparing for your interview. We're going to offer you a checklist that we've created that we use to make sure that we are well prepared for our customer interviews and are really thinking about everything ahead of time. And then we're going to jump into some little small groups and make you practice. So it should be really fun.
Awesome. And as Lieschen says, it all starts with the mindset. And the reason for that is honestly, your techniques don't really matter if your mindset is wrong. If you're not going into an interview or a customer research interview with that expectation to learn, to be wrong, to change your opinion, then I don't know what's the point of doing them. If I want to feel like I'm right all the time, I can just talk to myself in my own head. We need to make sure we get ourselves in the right mindset of saying, how do we recognize and overcome bias? Now, it's not to say that there's anything wrong with bias. Bias is an important part of how we work, how we tick. It helped us survive in the jungle, to be able to react quickly, to perceive threats, whether they're real or not, and to be able to survive. But now, as we are in the modern world, we need to be able to say, how do we identify these biases, and how do we make sure that we're taking them into a consideration so that we're making the correct decisions, that we're moving forward in our product decisions.
So we are going to start today by looking at the SEEDS model of bias. This comes from the Neuro Leadership Institute, and it helps us think about bias in lots of different ways. So mainly 5 categories that we're going to jump deeper into how they show up in the average customer interview, or how they might show up for us in particular as product folks. But I'm not going to try to bias that all of us are the same as product folks, so we'll go into that a little deeper. But so SEEDS stands for these 5 types: similarity, expedience, experience, distance, and safety. So let's dig into those a little bit more.
Cool. And what I love about this model too, you'll probably see how this applies to life in general. So hopefully you're going to get a great tool here that you're going to use throughout your day, not just while doing customer research. So the first S is similarity bias. This is probably the easiest one to spot because it's part of being our tribe, right? We want to be with people who are like us. Again, going back to what helped us survive is having a close-knit tribe, having people we could trust. And similarity bias has an in-group and an out-group perspective. So if I'm in a conversation with a customer, I might easily identify with other product managers or the people of my same ethnicity or background. That my mind right away would say, hey, that guy wears glasses just like me. He's got to be smart just like me. Well, that's not necessarily true. I'm not smart. So I don't know why I would assume that about other people. And the same goes for that out-group bias. If someone's not like me, I can't trust them. Lieschen, I heard you use an Android phone. I don't know if I could trust you anymore. That is so unlike my lovely Apple device. Or, that somebody grew up in a different area, or they have a different background. And so we want to make sure that as we're going into an interview, that we're considering that people are different and that our customers are different than us, and that we need to be respectful of that and bring that into consideration when we're judging the feedback they're giving or what we're learning in the research.
All right, let's talk about some expedience bias. So expedience bias shows up in where we're really just looking for someone to confirm what we already believe or what we've decided. So this could happen to product people all the time, right? We're so deep into what we're building that we only hear the things that our customers say that confirm what we believe or want them to say. And then somehow we don't really hear, or we kind of miss anything that they say that might offer a conflicting opinion. Another thing is the halo effect. So on the halo effect side of expedience is that you may just really like working with someone, or it may be a customer that you just think is amazing. And so you take these positive qualities that they have, and you apply them to, oh, well, then their opinion's right. Or, oh, they must be an expert in this thing I'm testing just because their company's awesome. So it's a really easy one for us to fall into, especially when we're just trying to get our product out the door.
Yeah, we fall that into all the time. We've got, Lieschen and I work with what we call our SPCTs, kind of our power users. They've been recognized as leaders in the field. And sometimes it's, they are great. They have a lot of positive qualities and a lot of great insight. But we always got to remember that they're not always the one that knows best in a lot of aspects. They know a lot about a lot of stuff, but not the best about everything. Next up is experience bias, right? How do we translate the experiences in that story that we all live into what we're learning from other folks? So the first one here is the false consensus. This gets me all the time. We're assuming that the beliefs and opinions that I have are shared by others, right? I'm in my head all the time. I have to live with these beliefs and opinions that I have. What do you mean you don't share those same things? Didn't we all watch those same movies, read those same books, have those same shared experiences? No, we're all different. There's no consensus here, and we can easily fall into that. So when I go into an interview, I want to make sure that I'm not tripping into this. If I hear somebody say something where I'm like, oh yeah, they like that button, that must be because it's green. I like it because it's green. Well, no, I need to dig in a little bit and say, well, why do you like that button we just added into the UI? Is it because it's green? Oh, no, it's actually because X, Y, or Z. So making sure that you're not taking shortcuts, assuming false consensus. The other one here in experience bias is that we all are prone to the hindsight bias. And this is where we assess past events as if they were logical and structured. Again, we all have the story of our lives, and hindsight is 20/20. And so when we look back in the past, it's easy for us to be like, oh yeah, the answer was obvious. The answer was easy. It's how we got to where we are today. This can be, when we think about these biases, not only are they the biases that we bring into a customer research, but also what the biases that our customers bring. So when I'm working with a customer and I hear them sharing a story for how they got through a challenge, they might relay it as if it was very straightforward. And definitely want to pick at that a little bit. Try to make sure that I'm not hearing a hindsight story here. I want to make sure, like, how did you feel in the moment? Or what were some of the other challenges that you had? Or were some other options you explored? What was the main source of conflict as you went through this journey? Try to tease out with some questions there. What is the part of the story that led a customer to either buying our product or renewing that wasn't the logical and structured part? You know, take us to distance bias, Lieschen?
Yeah. So distance bias is where we place more value on recent experiences and learnings. And it's really that thought of things that are more recent, we still feel more acutely, right? So the closer it is to us, the more weight we give it. And something that's further away, our brains tend to say, oh, well, that's further away, it hurt less, or it, rosy glasses, whatever it is. So the recency makes us think, okay, this is really important because I heard it now, right? This customer reached out with this thing, and it's only one customer, but it happened today. And the recency of that really just makes this learning more important than others that I've had. This can also relate to the order that you do your interviews in, right? So we talk about how the first interview and the last interview stick really well in your mind, and then you kind of lose and get a little mushy in the middle with, oh, they all kind of seemed the same with those customers inside. So that recency of when that interview happened could be adding to how you are deciding to interpret what you heard. So being really careful with that. And then giving less value to something that's further away, right? So someone gives you feedback and you think, oh, well, that'll take me longer to do, or oh, that's down the line, whatever it is. You start to think, because it's further away from me, it's less important for me to think about, less important to work on. So it's just being really, really careful with how we take in our information, right? And so you can go back through and look at your interviews, and as you read them and think about them, making sure that you kind of mix that all together and try not to put all of the weight on the stuff that's happened right then and there.
Definitely. I mean, that's that recency bias is particularly one where it makes me want to just record everything. So many times they've been saved because my notes didn't quite capture what I needed because I don't remember at the end what the second person or the third person said if I'm interviewing 15 people.
Yeah, and we keep foreshadowing our checklist, but it is so important to be able to go back and make something a little more recent, especially when you catch yourself falling into this bias in particular.
And then the last part of the SEEDS model here is safety bias. So a couple of ways that this impacts research, and there's lots of aspects of this that again, you might find the SEEDS model something worth exploring and seeing how it impacts you day to day. But the first is the sunk cost. So that's, of course, being unwilling to change course or pivot on decisions that have been made in the past, especially if you've been investing in them quite a bit. It's hard to take negative feedback in a customer research session, especially if it was either your baby that you grew, or the product or the feature that you were bringing to market, or if it's something that you've been working hard on for quite a while. And it's important to step back and try to get away from that sunk cost bias, to be able to accept the gift that your customers are giving you with their time and their feedback. Even if it's something you don't want to hear, trying to step away from your own bias of trying to stay in the safe zone and get a little dangerous, be able to take that negative feedback, even if it would mean a lot of thrown away work. The other one is the framing effect. And this is how we base feedback that we hear differently if it's presented as a gain or as a loss. We hate to lose. It feels so bad that the difference between gaining $1 and losing $1, nobody wants to lose that $1. That's $1 we had to work for. But gaining $1 is still $1, right? It should be the same amount of feedback. But we need to be looking at, when our customers come to us with feedback, whether they say it as a positive or a negative, can really create that emotional reaction within us. We hate to lose, and negative feedback can set us off. Want us to revert to safety. But so we need to say, okay, step away, take assessment of our emotions here, and how the frame of the context here of the feedback is, and whether it's positive or negative, try to say what is the exact facts or the specific request here that's coming through, so I can assess this properly.
And this is one that I even came up against in how I was asking questions. I was interviewing executives recently and found that if I asked them about challenges or struggles, I got a very different response than if I asked them about opportunities. And truthfully, they kind of clammed up and didn't want to talk when I asked about struggles and challenges. And as soon as I asked about opportunities, they had plenty to say, even though that was the only bit of the question that I changed. So the framing effect can go both ways, and you can see some very quick changes if you play with that.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite way to do that is, instead of asking a customer, what is the biggest problem you have with our product, instead say, imagine you had a magic wish. What is the one thing you change? Changing it from a negative question to a positive question. And then again, it impacts the way people are more open, I feel, in the positive, because, social interactions, they want to be more upbeat. So it's things to play around with there. Think about how you're framing your questions, and the feedback might make a big difference in what you get.
Well, and sometimes problems can feel proprietary, right? Or like something you shouldn't share outside your organization.
Mm-hmm. So that was the seeds model. And again, the reason we brought this up is, time and again, when we've used this, both Lieschen and I refer back to this, and when we've shared it with others, it clicks for people. They say, oh, that's a name for something I've experienced. This is a framework that I can use to help me say, okay, what is going right and what's going wrong, and where might I be biased as an individual? And what we're going to go to next is talk about how do we, knowing that these biases exist in all of us, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, but it is something we need to be able to identify and avoid. How do we create an interview plan that helps us move past these, or helps us avoid these when we're trying to collect that great qualitative data that we can compare and use in our decisions? Okay. I'm gonna check something real quickly. Is there a blackish bar on top of my screen share?
No.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Lieschen, you want to start us off? So you're talking about this checklist we put together?
Yeah, so this checklist is this sort of comprehensive, all the things that we try to think about before going into an interview. And one of the reasons that we created it is, when you've done hundreds of interviews or more, it's really easy to forget about a couple of these items, or to skip ahead because you're so used to doing it. Again, maybe that's some experience bias, right? So we really just wanted to create a list that we could go back to and just double check with ourselves. Am I doing all these things? Am I getting into that right mindset and thinking about my biases before I show up to these customer interviews? So we've broken them into a few sections. And the first section is really just to say, hey, what bias might I be bringing into this interview? So am I feeling something right in this moment? Sometimes you can, if you just take a minute to think about it, you might catch yourself with some things before you've even, gotten the call ready or any of that. So it's nice to just write a quick little sentence for yourself of how that bias might be showing up. And then when you're working with a partner or pairing, which is going to be later in our list, you can sort of compare that, right? And look for how you can support each other to get past these biases or catch them in the moment as you go through the interview.
And just be sure to don't feel like you have to quickly write these down. We've got a link for you. You can get a copy of this yourself and use it. So we're happy to share this with you as an aid that you can use for your next preparation.
Yeah, and certainly make it your own and whatever you might need to be successful in your interviews.
Yeah.
So the next section that we have is preparation. So when we talk about preparation, there's many different levels of preparation. And certainly I've paired with people who want to go in with pretty low prep. And I have worked with people who like to spend, twice as long as the interview is going to take, making sure that they have all the information and everything in between. And depending on the topic and who I'm interviewing, I might want to do more or little preparation, just depending on what I'm trying to get out of the interview. So having a script ready is one way to eliminate bias. So just having a set of questions so that you're asking each of your interviewees the same questions seems really obvious, but we often skip that one, thinking, oh, we'll let them lead us where we want to go, which can be a really good tactic. But the more we let the questions come to us in the moment, the more likely we are to be adding a bias without being able to catch it or notice that we're doing that.
And to Lieschen's point there, certainly a script can mean different things to different people. For me, when I script out an interview, I want to capture what are those learning points I want to get? What are those items I want to make sure I cover? I don't necessarily write out exactly the question I'm going to say. If I do that, I tend to come off a little more robotic. So, experiment, try doing more scripting, try doing less scripting. Depending on where you are naturally, try that other end of the spectrum and seeing that, how does that feel? What went well, what didn't go well, and try to tune in what's the right amount of scripting and kind of preparation for you.
Another thing that I recommend is having an empathy map template open. We use a tool called Collaborate to do that, where we can keep notes in with someone else, whatever tool you might use. Empathy map templates, you can Google them. They're on the internet, easy to find if you don't already use them. And again, that's just a great way to structure and to think about where you're putting your notes as you go through to help you follow that path. And to William's point, stay on the track that you're, what you're trying to get out of the interview, and make sure that you're staying focused against those biases.
The next one here is checking your CRM. So whatever tool you use, or it might be LinkedIn if you don't have a CRM. Go take a look. You take a look at your interviewee ahead of time. What is their role? What do they do? Do they have any open cases with you? Any support cases? Are there any open sales opportunities? Do they just make a career change? Even just like looking up somebody on LinkedIn and getting a sense for, where did they go to school? What jobs have they had? That really helps me a lot in overcoming similarity bias. By getting a fuller picture of them before I've even met them on a call or at a research session, it helps me kind of more empathize with them, where they might be coming from and how they're different than me. And I can see some of that concretely either in the CRM or on LinkedIn, and get to feel for that ahead of time.
And then if you find that you already know a ton about all the people that you're interviewing and you don't need to check the CRM, then maybe you've got some other bias happening, right? Maybe it's the same set of customers that you're always going to, and that's a trigger for you to think about who you're interviewing and maybe diversifying that group as well. And then for pairing, decide who's going to take notes and who will ask the questions, and try to change that up as well. So if for every single interview you have the same person asking the questions and the same person taking notes, then the bias of how you take notes or the bias of how you ask questions and facilitate an interview could start to show through that process. So working with a partner and trading up who's doing which role can help here in preparation.
Okay, the next part here. So we've checked our biases at the door. We've prepared for the interview, and now it is time. It's time to get on our interview. So what time should we show up to set the stage? Well, we should get there early. right? The number one thing is to respect the time that our customers are giving to us, and to make sure that we're there early and that we've got time either ending early, which is a very respectful thing to do, is a great way to take the most use of that time and ensure there's no technical hiccups or anything like that. Of course, always introduce yourself and your partner who's interviewing with you. You know, I like to say here as well what we're using the research for, so that there's a great expectation of what is and is not being used, especially as we say a little further down, gaining the consent to record. If you're going to record, what is that's going to be used for? It's important to connect personally. You know, make that connection to open up. I have a little spiel I like to do that both does that personal connection and welcomes criticism. I like to say, you know, as a product manager, I'm excited to be talking to you, customer. The number one thing I love to do is smile, and your positive feedback, it brings such smiles to my face. But what I really like to hear at this point in the research are the things you hate, because that's something I can go do something about it now, take care of those issues that you've got. So that's just an example there about how welcoming criticism, kind of connecting personally, a little self-deprecating humor can help lighten the mood and also put people in the right frame of mind that you are looking at not to just only hear great things, but it's a welcome place in this interaction to get negatives as well. Lieschen, do you have any ways here that you like to set the stage?
Yeah, I think just even maybe a mistake or something happens, right? And you can make like a little self-deprecating joke, or like William does, right? Just, I really want criticism, like tell me I'm awful. It makes people laugh, it makes them smile, and it puts them at ease. So it makes a huge difference. And you know, also just making sure that they feel comfortable with you. Once they have that connection, there's a little bit more trust. And then when you say, you know, this recording is only for personal use, to make sure that I can go back and listen and try to take out as much bias, right? So you're just being honest about what you're doing with it, then they'll believe that and be a little bit more open to being recorded, most likely. So that's really helpful. All right, and then the interview. Oh my gosh, we're finally at the part where you interview. This one, another one that can feel really obvious, but it's in the moment, we often forget about, is open-ended questions only. I have been in so many interviews, right, where the whole plan, we've scripted out these open-ended questions, and the first thing that my partner does or that I do is, don't you think it would be great if we did X? Well, yeah, of course they're going to say yes, because I just set them up to say yes, and they want to make me happy and agree with me, right? So making sure that our questions are open-ended. Tell me about a time you think about the last time you needed this. What did that journey look like, right? Walk me through. So much more open-ended prevents us from adding that bias, you know, expedience or otherwise. And then watching our airtime. We often want to explain things away. When someone says, well, I don't get this, or I always click on this when I'm looking for it for whatever, and really I'm supposed to go over here. It is so easy for us to want to jump in because we built it, right? And to say, oh, well, we made that decision because of this, or the technology really forced us to do that. That's not what this is about, right? And you can do a demo later and you can talk to them later, but the interview is not the time for you to explain that or to have that part of the conversation. So really watch your airtime and make sure you remember this is a time for them to do the talking and you to do the listening and the learning.
The way I think about that is I never learn from me talking. And the reason I'm doing a customer interview is to learn. So if I'm speaking, it better be very valuable because I'm missing out on opportunities to learn. And I've been struggling with this week, Lieschen. I've been doing some interviews here and I keep finding all these great things I want to tell my customers, like, oh, you're struggling with this problem, but you can do it if you click here and here and here and here and here in the product. And really what I need to do is reframe that and say, you know, I want to share this with them, but I need to recognize that the reason they're not is because it's hard to do. Just because I know the answer doesn't mean, it still indicates that there's something missing if they're not able to find it themselves.
And that jumps right into the next one. The customer experience is always correct. Kind of like the customer's always right, right? Their experience is true for them. So making sure that we don't go, oh, well, that's wrong. Oh, well, clearly they're just not an expert enough user, right? Again, those are biases that we want to drop. So giving ourselves that mindset of the customer experience is correct, period, helps us let go of some of those initial thoughts and defenses that we bring in and just take their experience as their truth. And then to William's point, hey, I want to go answer all those questions. I have so many cool things I could show them. They would be so happy if they found out all of this stuff is actually already there. Save that parking lot for the end. So time your questions, time your interviews so that you have the end of your interview to say, I appreciated this so much. I have a couple things I'd love to show you based on what you mentioned today before we close out. And that also gives them something, and they can feel really good about you having answered their questions or given them something for the time that they've just given you. So having that parking lot at the end gives you that assurance that all those words you wanted to say in the middle, you'll have time to say. And then that your customer will be getting something back at the end. And we've said this before in the last section, but tell them what you're doing with the information, right? Why are you interviewing them and what are you going to do with it? They want to know that their time is well spent and that it was worth it to give you their time. So reiterating, okay, now I'm going to go take this information. I'm going to look at the other interviews that I've done, and it's going to be worked into our backlog or, taken care of in some way that we're going to make a certain change in a certain timeline. You can ask permission to share internally. So we've taken notes and recorded. There's 3 other people on my team that might really benefit from hearing this. How would you feel if I shared it with them, right? So asking that permission, and it really just reasserts that confidentiality and that internal use to remind them again, hey, even just within my own team, I'm going to double check with you that it's okay that I share that information internally. And then of course, ending on time. We're respecting their time as much as possible. They're giving it to us. We honor that, and we want to respect that time. So we use speedy meetings where we end our meetings, 5 or 10 minutes before the hour, depending on how long the meeting is. And this has a couple benefits. So one, they get time to go take a break before their next obligation. You can time it really well. They feel like, oh, great, it didn't take that full time. I don't feel rushed. And then it gives you and your partner, whoever you're pairing with, some time to do a quick little debrief, especially if you've got back-to-back interviews going. So that's when we really treasure.
Let's take care of any paperwork too, as well, if you need to tidy up your notes, edit any typos and whatnot. And then, of course, after it, we want to make sure that we are synthesizing the research and sending our thank you notes, making sure that we're thanking our participants for the time they've shared with us. We want to send up a follow-up email when the changes are implemented so that our customers can see us in action, taking advantage of what they shared with us so they can feel valued and heard. And there's going to be action items that come up during the interview. So make sure that you set a reminder for those actions, especially Lieschen was mentioning sometimes they're going back to back. We want to make sure that we don't miss those actions that are in there. Speaking back to, we talked about the distance bias and how we're most likely to remember the stuff that happened most recently. If we've got 3 sessions in a row, we might lose track of those action items that happened in the middle. So either set a reminder for the end of the day or for a little bit later to take those and process them. I see a couple sticky notes got put on top of our mural, which is totally fine, whoever the rhinoceros is, but I think I remember what's under here. The next one is to debrief immediately with your buddy. And Lieschen mentioned that was a great use of the end of a speeding meeting. And that's, the value of having a partner interview with you is to have that different perspective. And if you're not doing a debrief, you're missing out on that major ability to hear, what did they hear? How did they interpret that feedback? How did they what did they take away from this session? So that immediate debrief, just a quick little check-in, comparing notes, comparing what the top 3 things are, the top 1 thing that you're taking from it is a great way to immediately get that while you still have that recency there for the session you just did. And then the last one there says, save the recording to long-term storage. I don't know if you've been bit by this. It's getting better because our recording services are giving us more storage in the cloud. But so many times I've lost research because either your company might have an automatic deletion policy going on for research. And so make sure you take that and put it into Box or Google Drive or whatever you might be using for longer term file storage so that you can make sure you have access to that research as long as you need it to process your results. Anything you wanted to add to that, Lieschen?
No, that's great.
Okay.
The debriefing immediately, though, I find very, very valuable. So creating that time, again, just can't stress that enough. It's worth your time to do.
Cool. So if you're in the mural, and if you I don't know, Lieschen, if you want to post a link to it or repost the chat I put earlier. We're going to start moving into the practice session soon, but in here, you can find this link to the interview cheat sheet for yourself. So you can make a copy of that, tweak it, use it, print out a copy so that you can reference it either before you're preparing or during an interview. And hopefully you find it useful, even if it's your first interview or you've been doing it for a while. We hope that you've gotten something here for switching up your style. Okay. So Lieschen, I think before we move to practice, you want to take some time for some questions?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We'd love to, any questions or thoughts that you all have. We just went through a lot kind of fast, so.
And I would say, don't be shy because we're going to have you talk to each other soon. So don't think
Okay.
you're going to get away without speaking today.
Okay, my name is Linda. I noticed on your mural that it said, hey, get a copy of this cheat sheet. And I'm going, cool, where?
Oh yeah, sure. I think if you double click it, it should open a Google Doc for you.
I've tried, but I'll give it a try. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. Yeah, no worries. Well, we can put the link in chat here in a moment too. I see maybe it's not working for folks. I see lots of blue circles showing up. We'll put that here in the chat. What other questions do we have?
Or even just, did any of you notice or did any of these seeds, biases resonate with you? Any light bulbs, things you already knew, but you were reminded of? We'd love to hear about it.
Boy, howdy, the customer's never right.
Do you guys have any tips on recruiting customers for interviews?
Yeah, William's, I would say, even more great at this than I am, but what I try to do to get new customers is we use Pendo, but just however you're tracking usage or that kind of thing, you can pull from those lists, and then keeping track of who you've contacted before. We talk about with our product team, hey, if that person was in a recent interview for something else, go ahead and find someone different. So we do a lot of just within our existing customers, reaching out to them and sending a really personal email of, hey, we recognize you as a user of this, or hey, you're a new user and we're really looking for your experience. Here's why it's more valuable to us in this scenario, and appealing that to them that way if they're someone who we've never interviewed before. Seems to work pretty well. I don't know, William, what are some of your recent ones?
Yeah, those are great examples. I don't think I have anything more to add on that one real quick. I'm getting the new link, so I'm multitasking here a little bit.
Having stakeholders watch an interview with you, I think that's really interesting. I tend to not have the stakeholders watch so much as watch the recording after, just because I've struggled with, to be honest, I've struggled with keeping them contained, right? Because sometimes the stakeholder is the one who wants to take over the airtime, or even we just end up outnumbering the person we're interviewing, and because you're already doing a pair to do the interview. So often I have them watch the recording and talk through things with them afterwards. Or if they really want to come, I'll bring them as the note taker. I might do that with an engineer or anybody else in the org as well. Just say, hey, can you come be my note taker? Because I think it's a great opportunity for you to be on this interview with me. That's a way that I might bring other people in. Some best practices for getting an interview back on track when it goes off the rails. I often just remind, making sure you set the stage at the beginning. Here's what we're here to talk about and why I'm interviewing you. Here's the scope of this interview and how we're going to use it. That can really help later with them not feeling hurt. If you say, oh, that's really great. At the end of this interview, we'll have a parking lot time and I'll be able to put you in touch with so-and-so who's dealing with that part of the product or taking that type of feedback. I'd really like to bring us back to this question, which is an area that I have control over and I'm really hoping to learn about, right? So setting the stage at the beginning so they don't feel like you're, being rude or anything. And then saying, oh yeah, we have this parking lot. I'll definitely get to it then. For the purpose of this interview, I'd really like to talk about the X. So just really blunt, really honest, and still kind to bring them back to it. Open-ended questions being best, feeling about ranking or rating questions. I use ranking and rating questions. I think just sparingly though, right? Mix them in with other types of questions. It really depends on what you're trying to get out of your interview, right? And what stage you are in the development process. So I'm not against them, but I certainly wouldn't use them exclusively, and I'd make sure you have plenty of time to talk through it and have open-ended questions about the ranking and rating and why they did it that way, or just getting more out of them, right? Because otherwise you might as well just do a survey. So really creating the time and space for open-ended questions about, why they did that or why they chose something. Yeah. Cool. Any last questions? Don't be shy.
You'll have a chance to ask more later too.
Oh, where's a good resource for an empathy map, William?
You can search it. There's an open source one out there. So if you just Google for empathy map, you'll see it. There's a couple of different formats, but in general, it's got a head in the middle, and it's got sections for each of the senses. What is this person seeing? What are they doing? What are they saying? What are they hearing? And the goal of the empathy map there is to help you connect with your customers. I think one of the challenges with it is some people see that empathy map and they go into an interview and they ask, "Hey, customer, what do you hear?" Or, "Hey, customer, what do you say?" And that's not really necessarily meant to be the point of that. Is in the course of your research, as you're talking about their experiences and other items, you can follow that. I see, Linda, you're looking for the link. If you want to click the link right there, I put a new item here. You can kind of click on open the link. There you go. And
I just posted a random example from one that's on gamestorming.com. It's just one of the more common versions of it that I've seen. But like William was saying, kind of Google it and look around and see what format works best for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Lots of good ways. And I would say design thinking in general is a great set of tools here to help us with our bias. One of the main goals there is to connect with empathy to our customers. So look at the not only empathy maps, but other assets there like personas, of course, and story maps and journey maps. All as ways to help connect with your customer's experience rather than trying to filter that through your own personal bias. Okay. Should we talk about the activity, Lieschen?
Yes.
Okay. So Lieschen and we are a big fan of troikas. Troikas are a great way to learn. Troika is a group of 3 people, if you've never heard of that term before. And we're going to be pairing you up, or not pairing you up, tripling you up into these troikas. So not only will you get a chance to meet some other amazing people here at Denver Startup Week, but you'll have a chance to practice. So you're going to get into a small group. And you're going to assign yourselves who's going to be A, B, and C just based on alphabetical order. So whoever's first alphabetically, you're going to be A, next person will be B, third person will be C. And each of you is going to get 7 minutes to interview someone else in your peer. So we're going to start with the A person is going to interview the B person. So for 7 minutes. And then the 3 of you, C will be observing, hopefully learning some stuff there from what they're seeing from what A and B are doing. The 3 of you then will debrief. What surprised you? What was tough? What are some things that we all could learn from each other? And we get a chance to rotate that so that everybody gets a chance to interview somebody else. So if A will start off interviewing B, then B will interview C, and then C will interview A. And the prompt we want to give you is, what is the best way to improve Denver Startup Week? When Lieschen and I, when we do this with other folks, we try to pick something juicy, something that brings up biases. So in that spirit, I'm sure we all have ways that everybody wants to improve everything. We all have ways that we think things could be better. So try to think about what are your biases here? What types of bias would you bring to this prompt about ways to improve in Denver Startup Week? And then when you interview your peer, hopefully you'll try to use some of these techniques from the checklist, or even just that ability to identify biases. Hopefully it'll help you have a great interview experience and try out some new things. And again, this is a learning time. So it's a great time to try something different, because it's no worries if you fail here.
What questions do you have? I can see that we lost about 15 people as soon as we told you had to do this. So hopefully those of you who are left are excited to practice.
Not really, but that's okay.
There you go. I'd like the spirit of being okay with it.
I'll share the mural link again. Yeah.
And I would say what we'll do first too is just give you a moment to, given this prompt, think about their biases and whatnot before we put you into troikas, and we'll give us a chance to set up the breakouts and stuff. And I hope if you stay for nothing else, it's a great time to network. Get to meet 2 other great people.
Yeah. All right. So I did lose my host status. So William, maybe you can pop everybody into troikas.
Oh, let's see. This is one of those things in Zoom where I might not be able to see it unless I stop showing screens, but I'm going to take a look. Breakout rooms. I think I can do it. I can.
Oh, great. Oh, I'm a host again too.
Oh, okay, great. my prompt disappeared, so I think you got it from me. So you got to take a look at that. Any questions here on the activity as we get set up? Oh, okay.
We got to do math. We need 6 breakout rooms of 3, probably.
Sure, math. Yeah, it is a little tough, isn't it?
Yep. Okay. So I'm just going to start sending you guys in.
We're going to use we'll have the timer going in Mural for the 7 minutes and the 3 minutes. And then I think we'll also be able to do chats in Zoom that should go out across the breakout. So you can be on the lookout for those too. Let me know when you're ready, Lieschen.
All right, everybody should be assigned at this point. And I'm opening the rooms. And then we'll poke around. If you need us, reach out. Does our person who is Denver Startup Week Zoom 3 want to participate?
I'm good. I'm multitasking on something else too.
Wonderful too, but they'll be okay.
Do we want to pause the recording during this part?
That should be a good idea, just because there's nothing exciting happening.
Or this is gonna be the secret part where if you watch it.
Or did you start a timer, William?
I did. It's in Mural. Okay. Yeah, glad to hear it. That's what it's all about, is being able to practice with no stress. I see some people are adding in some of those highlights they got. So there's a little board there if you did find something that you want to share with DSW for ways to make it better, because don't want to let any good interview go to waste.
And then with these last minutes we have, we'd love to some of those for you to share your key takeaways, and also to take a minute to both think about something that you learned or remembered or experienced that you can take and use in your work in the next week. And you can just popcorn whoever wants to share.
I'll go ahead and share. We actually totally cheated in our breakout. And in the first round, we talked about Denver Startup Week, but there wasn't any bias because we didn't have any skin in the game. And so we switched to our second 2 interviews as actually our businesses. And then the biases came up.
That's what we wanted. We just didn't know how to set that up for everyone. So I'm so glad you did that.
And it was really cool. I think my personal experience, like, it took me too long to get into the juicy stuff that I wanted to get down to. I think I started like super big picture instead of getting to a specific experience that I wanted my interviewee to think about.
And how are you going to take that into your work in the next week?
Oh man, in so many ways. Well, I think throughout this session of certainly the open-ended questions, because I do just take so much, like, I just take all the good feedback. And I loved what you said about like that last piece of feedback, the most recent thing. I tend to act on things that are more recent and the loudest people instead of kind of looking more holistically. So trying to pull out people that are a little quieter and understanding their journey as well.
Who's our next brave soul?
I was in Jen's group, and I did the first interview about DSW, and I think one of the challenges that I saw is like really formulating good questions that, you know, don't lead into the answers that you want, but that extract more value out of it. And it really is hard to actually write and formulate good questions. So I don't know, you know, the way I would think to improve it, it's, you know, like practice, right? Write questions, practice, improve them little by little. But maybe you guys can share ways that you guys make better questions or have but that was one of the challenges I had.
Yeah, I think one thing that, and some of my favorite questions there, one is if I'm asking for someone to share their experiences doing something, let's say making a product to replace a workflow, I don't ask, for instance, how do you make breakfast every day, or how do you wake up? But I ask specifically, what did you have for breakfast today, or how did you get out of bed today? And you know, in terms of phrasing questions, it can help to try to make them concrete, make it easy for the customer to answer them, and again, try to help them avoid their bias from asking them to generalize or do other things for you.
You know, the last time you went to do blank, think about it, take a minute to remember it. Now tell me about it.
Okay, so more concrete, because what I was trying to do is more on the whys, like, hey, why did you do this? Why did you do that? But that's very broad, very open.
Well, you got my second favorite question, which is why. That's the most important question in any interview, is when they answer something, pick out something that didn't make sense to you, or just say why, and let the silence sit until they answer it.
Yeah.
And that could even be as they're telling you the story of the last time they went to do the thing. You can use the why as that open-ended question, or, you know, why did you decide to do the thing? Like take, you know, oh, you started your journey in the middle. Can you take me back to why you even, like, why you started in the first place, or tell me more about that kind of thing.
On the screen there, I put our contact details. You've got our email addresses if you want to reach out to us. And just a note too that we come from Scaled Agile. It's a mid-sized startup, and we are actively hiring, growing quick. I love working there because it's the kind of culture of a startup, but we've got global reach and we're punched way above our weight class. So you can check that out if you're interested in more. But I'm gonna leave that up there as we get to some more questions, just so if you want to copy down the emails, you got that.
Eric went off mute. Does that
I did, but I was waiting because I was also on their team, and obviously we had a lot of fun together. So I didn't want to take, you know.
Go ahead.
So I went last and spoke more of my own startup that I'm working on, or at least questions that were in line with that. And as they picked up immediately, like my confirmation bias was just off the charts, right? And so, you know, I think the number one feedback that I got was, you know, I shouldn't be asking the questions because, you know, there's too much excitement, there's too much energy around it. So I'm curious if, you know, what your recommendation is, aside from just trying to check them at the door, so to speak, of how to really avoid that.
Well, I think you have a strong point there. Is part of the time you have to recognize if you're not the right person to do the interview. If you've got too much skin in the game, maybe you do want to rely on that partner. Maybe you prepare with them and let that other person actually lead the interview if you think you might be too biased in a certain situation.
And then this is where you might just need a heavier script. You might have to do some deep, you know, even write out more than you would want to. And you could even warn people at the beginning, hey, I'm working really hard on eliminating my bias. So I might be a little robotic today, but it's because it's very important to me that I get the most honest feedback from you possible, you know? So just let them know why you're doing it that way and see if it helps.
Just to add, one thing that we had talked about was having that other person in the room, that sometimes you have that, you know, you're having the confirmation bias. So you think the feedback is really great because, yeah, you're so excited about it and their feedback's great. And the person, your teammate, might be going, ooh, I'm not quite sure that was, and I didn't get the same feeling. So sometimes having two people in the room with different biases, really, if you can identify your biases, then you actually maybe can mitigate them too. So that was a great thing that we had in our conversation.
I've had it as a good empathy connection point too, where a partner of mine, we had a good relationship, and they were starting to take too much airtime and kind of explain away some of the feedback we were getting. And so I just used it as a chance to kind of rib her in the moment, right? And it made everybody laugh and kind of relaxed everyone, and then gave them that opening to say, oh yeah, I have more, and whatever. So it can really help. Who else? We've got time for more.
Lieschen, I think that hit 10 seconds of awkward silence. Should we practice what we preach into a speedy meeting?
You all waited me out. All right. Well, that's okay. I hope that even if you're not comfortable sharing with the group, that you at least write down something that you can take into your work in the next week, or if not your work, can you take it into conversations in life and any other things you might be, experiencing in the next week. Think about how you can use this to improve it.
The breakout sessions, I actually think I wish more of the sessions, especially remote, had this, because it allows for kind of that networking and that thing. So I put that on the notepad of including more breakout sessions, but I think that was a great strategy from you guys. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's what we want to do. That's part of Denver Startup Week, is getting to meet other folks, not just listening to two of us, but hearing from everybody. So glad you like that. Yeah, okay, sounds good. Well, thanks everybody.
Yeah. Have a wonderful rest of Startup Week.
Thanks.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye, everybody.